Good evening and welcome to the Financial Week. I'm Javon Keys. Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles says he's expecting the increasing cost of some commodities and freight will regulate by year end. Mr. Biles was speaking at a recent meeting with the private sector organization of Jamaica, TVJ. The rising cost of freight has been a concern for businesses across the island and the world over, prompting concerns of inflation and how the additional costs could pass through to consumers. Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles, while addressing a recent meeting with the private sector organization of Jamaica PSOJ, says he expects the costs will trend down.
At June, container freight costs have risen by about 330%. Year on year. This is just enormous. And there is a risk that until all of the logistics is sorted out, we could in fact continue to see these prices stay high. However, we feel that in the short to medium term, they are going to trend down.
Mr. Biles also addressed the global upward movement in the cost of fuel.
What we see is that as economies have reopened, there has been an increase in the level of energy prices. And we have seen that prices have risen by 86 and 92% respectively for crude and LNG. Recall too that most of our energy is supplied by LNG, but nonetheless, those prices have risen quite dramatically. We expect, though, that between now and the end of the year, that we'll see some moderation in these prices as more supply comes on the market.
Meanwhile, Mr. Biles says the Monetary Policy Committee has been concerned about global inflation rates, which may impact the bank's local inflation target of 4 to 6%.
We feel at this time that we run the risk that at least for a period of time, but not for very long, we don't think, inflation may breach the upper level of our corridor of 6%. We're not calling it yet, but we have a concern that it may. And even if it does, we don't feel it will be there for very long.
Jamaica received $2.2 billion in official development assistance in 2020. The funding came from international development partners. Now, the money was earmarked to fund ongoing development projects under the National Development Agenda Vision 2030. The People's Republic of China provided the most money from a single corporation or program with $710.3 million. The Inter-American Development Bank IDB was second with $588 million. On to currency, the US dollar made more ground on the Jamaican dollar today. Banks and cambios are selling the US dollar for $155.34 on average. The Canadian dollar is going for $127.14. It's costing $213.89 for the pound, while the euro is trading at $186.91. The JSE index declined by 53 points, while the junior market index gained 33 points. Today's advances were Consolidated Bakeries, Epley's 7.5% preference shares due 2024, Lasco Manufacturing, KLE Group, and Caribbean Cream. On the losing side were 1 through 8 Student Living Jamaica variable preference shares, JMB Group 7.5% shares, Berger Paints Jamaica, Nutsford Express, and Sagicor Select Funds Manufacturing and Distribution. And that's the Financial Week. I'm Javon Keys. Stay with us. News from overseas right after the break.